Welcome to Idea to Investment, the podcast where we dig into the exciting world of entrepreneurship and investment. We tell the stories of the tech creators doing innovative work and the investors who back them up. Along the way, unveiling the fascinating journey from the birth of an idea to scoring crucial investment. We highlight the voices of entrepreneurs, showcasing their grit and creativity, all while gaining insights from the investors who believed in those dreams. Get ready to be inspired, stay informed, and stay tuned as we explore the awesome collision of ideas and investments. Idea to Investment is a production of Tech Alliance of Southwestern Ontario and is sponsored by TD Ferrera Wealth Advisory Group.
Hi, my name's Lee. I'm the president of Welcome Platform Technologies and TMRRRW Labs, and I'm looking forward to the podcast today, man.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the conversation, Lee. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And we usually like to start off by giving us the pitch. And you kind of have a lot going on, so maybe pick something to pitch for us, I guess.
For sure. I mean, I know today we're going to be talking about Welcome Platform, which is kind of my first business where I had to raise money, and my first sort of software company, I guess you could call it that. So I'll start by just giving the pitch to that. Essentially, the Welcome Platform has a mission to welcome 1 million newcomers to Canada. And we're doing that by pursuing a long-term vision of connecting communities. Something that I believe in is that, some time ago, people didn't have websites in their communities. And now it's sort of something that everyone just seems to expect. And I believe the same thing should come eventually for mobile apps, and that mobile technology can connect communities, tourists, newcomers, students, and so much more to making their experience in the community a lot more vibrant and a lot more accessible. So that's what we're doing at the Welcome Platform. It was built out of my builder studio, TMRRRW Labs, which is a sort of a team inside of our agency that's building different ideas. We incubated it for over a year and then raised some money. And now we're still doing other stuff at TMRRRW Labs, but Welcome Platform is sort of our first funded startup.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's maybe go back a little bit to the kind of the genesis of TMRRRW Labs. Where did that come from?
So I've been doing creative services, marketing, even from a freelancer since I was 17 years old. So I got into business pretty young. I had a kid when I was 17, so it meant I was a dad pretty young. Wanted to be a doctor, wanted to be a neurosurgeon, but school and also my life at that time, it didn't make the most sense. So, entrepreneurship just kind of happened to me. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never thought of myself as one, but I like to do stuff and build stuff and create things. And that's where it started. So it went from me freelancing. I had a recording studio. Then I started doing music videos for clients in that worked through my studio. And then I started doing graphic design, video editing, which was pretty successful as a freelancer. And then I enlisted 4 of my friends to join me in a co-op. So that was called TMRRRW Media. 2016, we started that. We did that co-op for a few years. And then 2 of those partners joined me in starting TMRRRW Inc., which was basically like a full service communications and technology agency. And we've been operating that since 2019. And then it was while building that agency, working with so many clients, we grew pretty substantially. We're sort of like the largest agency in the area, that we started seeing different opportunities for ourselves. And that was kind of the birth of TMRRRW Labs. It was sort of like this division of our company where if we have an idea that we think might be interesting, we'll like dedicate resources to building it. And there's been a lot of things that we've built and then shelved, for sure. But then there's been a few that have had traction, and the Welcome Platform is one of those things. And those are that's sort of the composition of our team. So today, TMRRRW Inc. is our agency business. TMRRRW Labs is the builder studio inside of it. And that's sort of from freelancer to 10 years later, the short story.
Sounds like and even you mentioned things just kind of presented themselves, like when you were growing the company. What kinds of opportunities are you talking about that just kind of sort of landed in front of you?
All sorts of different kinds. I mean, number one, when you're an agency, you're exposed to a lot of problems. So every time you meet a new customer, they're usually solving some kind of problem. And then sometimes it's the public sector, or like NGOs and things like that. And those are problems that are well understood. But then sometimes you have founders come in and ask for support in marketing or in product design or development because they're trying to solve problems. So essentially my team has been exposed to so many different industries and niches, and we've sort of learned from experience and also observation, like how to properly address problems and like understanding the need for distribution before focusing on your product, and understanding the need for unit economics to make sense before you build out a business. And I think we've been battle tested through working with our clients, and we sometimes, one example is joint ventures. So two of our portfolio companies, and that we have, one of them we have a really substantial equity stake in. The other one's a bit of a smaller stake. Both of those came in as clients, and they were clients that we were like, okay, we believe in these ideas. Can we contribute our work and then also get skin in the game? And that's why TMRRRW Labs has holdings in those two companies. We've also done other projects for example, this one company, they were just getting started, and it's an energy company, and we wanted equity. So we did services for equity, and now TMRRRW Labs owns that equity. And it's like, I think it's like 75x the multiplier on that investment. And it's pretty good batting average because it's the only time I've done that specifically. So it turned out to go pretty good. I think they'll eventually go public. So that was a great company to get equity in. So yeah, we get all sorts of different deals. And right now we're not taking on any new ones because we're spread pretty thin. So we've got 4 that we're working on, and 3 of them are software, and we have complete ownership of the Welcome platform, and then the 2 other companies we have like a partial ownership in.
I do want to talk more about the services for equity deal, because I think that's a pretty unique thing. But I do also want to ask you about just the marketing and communications niche. Is it, you say that you're one of the biggest firms in one of the biggest agencies in the region. Is it a highly competitive industry? Is it a tough industry to work in?
It for sure is. It's for sure competitive for a number of reasons. I mean, I think the macro environment when I got in, I never did like a build an agency program or how to get passive income. Like I'm really about the game. I love playing the game of attention, and I've always had fun doing it. I'm very passionate about the work that I do, but there's a lot of players in the space, and I think some of the biggest factors are globalized workforces. So a lot of agencies are able to hire out to the East Asia and South America, the Philippines, which means labor gets really competitive. So I've always hired like local talent, and it's been hard to navigate some of that, obviously, because that has pricing compression. Also, technology enables 2 things. It enables customers to be more savvy themselves, and also enables smaller agencies and teams to get more done. So you've got like sort of compression from both sides. Back in the day, you could do website projects for really large budgets, and now people could build their own in Squarespace or Wix or other platforms. So there's always going to be a need for what we do at our agency. And we do regularly $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 website projects. But they're very limited audience that would want that kind of a service. And that's why it's competitive, because everyone's fighting for the same stuff. So it definitely is it's a competitive market. The differentiator is usually if it's a founder-led agency that people want to work with the founder. So in my case, like we don't really compete with people on price. We just don't grow our team super big. Our business, we're not trying to build a big profitable agency, to be honest. We're just trying to fund our ideas. So we don't need to get to like 50, 60, 100 people and do the like marketing sweatshop thing. We're just trying to do work that keeps the bills paid and the team paid so that we can keep building our ideas.
What about AI? Is AI disrupting your business model at all, or are you embracing AI as a tool within the industry?
So AI is definitely disrupting the industry for sure. Again, just like I said before, it's like upward pressure. Anytime that you can give a whole cohort of potential customers or customer staff tools that, in a sense, offset their need to hire you, you're going to feel that. But we haven't had that issue. A lot of the work we do is in the public sector or larger companies like in energy and aerospace, manufacturing. So these clients aren't tech savvy to begin with, and they're not embracing AI the same way, or they're not allowed to embrace AI the same way. So we haven't had any work lost because of AI, number one. Number two, we've embraced it since very, very early on. We were building with GPT before Chat GPT came out. So we were very familiar with large language models and using that. We had our own AI startup that we launched. That's one of the projects that we shelved, called Casper. Was an AI ghostwriter, but we kind of knew there was not going to be a moat for it. So we shelved it pretty quickly. We had a huge waiting list and great success at the beginning, but didn't end up pursuing it. But I've also been teaching AI to business owners in my area for years, literally years. So I would say definitely our teams. I literally just did a keynote this week and I talked about AI for 100 plus people. And for us, we're definitely on the cutting edge of it, using it in all of our workflows. And it's made us more profitable. This year, we're at the highest profit per employee rate that we've ever been at. And most of that credit goes to AI, just supercharging our team.
Wow. I mean, that's not, no, I don't think that's the normal, or is it? I mean, in the, at least within the marketing and communication sector, because I think there's a lot of fear. A lot of companies are honestly, they're afraid this technology can replace a lot of what we do. Yes, it might begin as a tool, but eventually there's that fear.
Absolutely. I think we knew that it was coming years ago, and I've done these talks. They're recorded talks. I made a lot of predictions about generative video, generative graphic design, generative web, and so far they've been pretty much on the money. Not any credit to myself. It's just like the law of exponential growth. I kind of just, it's hard to wrap your head around, but if you just do the math, like the disruption's coming, and we just chose to allocate our team in areas where we see leverage in a post AI economy. So when people hire our team, they're hiring expertise, guidance, creative direction, taste. And we got out of all the commodity services. So ads management, website management, a lot of things that were what I would say low leverage. We stopped doing a while ago to pivot towards a world where AI is at the forefront. In fact, we closed our marketing agency down completely over 2 years ago and just launched in November a totally new model, which is about turnarounds for businesses, where they can use AI and automation and new technology to manage their own marketing versus paying like a monthly marketing agency retainer. So it's a totally different model. We have a reoccurring model, but it's based on software. And we have an upfront model, which is based on consulting. And we got completely out of the management side. So we knew it was coming. We changed our business ahead of time. And again, we did that. We've been planning that for years. We just launched in November. And that business is already at it'll be on track to 7 figures in the first year. We already did 6 figures in sales. So it's clearly being received well by the customers we're talking to.
Yeah, that's going to be an important pivot, I'm sure. Let's talk about investment, because you've already alluded to some of the pretty unique ways that you've dealt with investment. But let's go back to kind of your initial searches for capital, and what did they look like? Were you going after like traditional sources of investment to fund your ideas?
So what I'll say is, like, when I started thinking about the Welcome platform, it's obviously a software enabled business. We saw it as like a kind of a blue ocean. Like, we really didn't see any competition, and it's also public sector. So we figured that it'd be pretty defensible. And I'm a big like software company junkie. For years, I've been listening to all the podcasts, all the software founders. I've always been really passionate about product and marketing when it comes to building software businesses. I just never had one. So I think admittedly, I sort of tried to make my business fit the mold of venture business. I wanted it to be. So I went and tried to raise money. I saw a path to pretty considerable growth, but didn't really realize, at the time, the math of a VC. And when I'm a deal maker, so when I'm trying to do deals, I try to understand really well what the other side of the deal wants, and that process taught me VC math and how how big of a business you have to be when you win to justify the fund, to justify the management fees, to justify all the businesses that fail. So even though I had like a low risk profile, because I already had customers, low cost, high margins, low risk, we didn't have the upside. So I did try. I pitched VCs. I DM'd people. I sent emails to different angel groups, and it wasn't fully successful. We definitely had some interest, but at the end of the day, like the math wasn't mathing. So yeah, I had to get pretty creative. I still raised my seed round. Like I had a goal of $500,000, and I raised it. I raised it at a valuation of 3.25 million Canadian. So I did, and that was in a tough climate. Like that was on the back of the whole venture space kind of collapsing at seed stage. Like early stage businesses were not getting funded, and they were getting funded for a really small amount. This is kind of after all the free money dried up, all the zero interest money dried up, and you saw that across the board. So I think we did pretty good. I'm not mad about how it turned out. It'd be a year last month that the last bit of funding came in for our seed round. So I know the market's changed a little bit since then, but I'm pretty happy about it.
So in that year, I know you've managed some pretty unique deals. Like you said, you're a deal maker. What was one of those first kind of deals where you went, okay, this could work out nicely for both of us?
Yeah. So I mean, I'll start by just kind of setting up the funding, like how we got the funding. So
Okay.
the first thing we did was we wanted a signal. And the problem with investors, I wouldn't say problem, but the nature of investors is they're looking to see if someone else has taken the risk before they take the risk. So you have just a higher chance of success when you're pitching something that somebody else has already risked their own money on. And we figured the best way to do that would be through Verge Capital in London, which is a social enterprise fund, because it's not venture capital. It's a loan. It's for social enterprises, which we are, and we had a good fit. So I did the pitch. We went through the whole process. I was very glad that we did. We ended up getting the full amount. So they have a maximum amount of $100,000. We got it. And they also said it was the fastest deliberation from a pitch. So I did a pitch. Like genuinely, there was tears in the audience. So I think it went well. I think that my story resonated.
And just to be clear, this was you pitching the welcome platform to them?
Yeah, I was pitching the welcome platform. This is, by the way, just to be clear, the only time I've ever raised money was for the welcome platform.
Okay.
So when I was pitching it, the story resonated. There was like tears. It was clearly well received. I get off the call, and within 6 minutes, I get a call back saying that we got it. So they said that was the fastest they've ever had to deliberate. Good reception. And then I used that immediately. We had a press release. We had that momentum, and I used that to go and get the following investors. So now your point about kind of interesting deals that got made. The first one was getting some actual investment, and what actually ended up happening was I had a group reach out to me. They're familiar with my work. I've worked with them on a number of businesses, and they wanted me to be the fractional CMO of their new startup. And I said, I don't have time because I'm busy with my own company and now Welcome Platform. I'm trying to raise some money for and spin out as a separate entity. So I'm a bit spread thin. So I counter offered and I said, why don't we do this instead? Why don't you invest $200,000 in my company? And then I'll work for your startup for $250,000 of your business and equity. Because that was, roughly what the value of my time would have been if I had, been there as a full-time employee. But I'm also not getting paid anything but equity. So obviously there's a little bit of a higher premium on that. And they were okay with that. And the reason is because the incentives were great. Like they got to, instead of paying me and then money going to nowhere, they're actually putting an investment in the company that I'm running. So there's potential that payment will turn into a much bigger sum in the future, or at the very least get paid back. And then my time with their business is fully skin in the game. It's all, the incentive is completely the success of the company because I'm not getting paid otherwise. So it aligned everyone's incentives. And then it also allowed me to be able to present a $200,000 investment on my cap table. So I then used that to go and negotiate deals with other angels, and collectively got two $50,000 checks, a little over 30,000, and then $70,000 from my partners at TMRRW Inc. So that's how I closed the whole 500,000, and had to get a little clever doing so.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm curious though, because I mean, you're a fairly young guy. You've got a kid. You're a family man. Um,
I've got four kids.
you've got okay, so you got a big family. You've got mouths to feed, bills to pay. Uh, I mean, how tempted were you to just say, you know what, a regular paycheck as a CFO that'd be a pretty good thing. Like, did you ever weigh those two and go, maybe I should just step into this role?
It's funny, like the people that know me, like my partners, my staff, they know me. Like I'm very much all in. And not because I like to gamble. I actually don't gamble out of principle, because I think I gamble too much in my personal life to be gambling on sports or what have you. But I go all in because I think it aligns the way like my operating system works with the best outcome. So when I have that comfort, I don't necessarily like the way that I perform. So it simply is like just setting up my life the way that I work best. I've always been the least paid employee at my companies. I was offered, basically during the pandemic, I was offered a job to be a CMO for a really large software company from the chairman and CEO of that company, who's a friend of mine. And had I said yes to that, I would have, the total compensation would have been like over $500,000 USD for that year.
Wow.
I said no because I didn't want to work for somebody else. I wanted to work on my own projects. And like when I say I'm the lowest paid employee on my team, especially that during the pandemic, that was not a joke. Like I was making a lot of sacrifices. I never laid off anybody, kept the entire team intact. But it was through significant pain that I had to do that. So I said no to that, and then I had literally zero temptation to take the money. It was like I was just trying to figure out how to make the dream work. And I know I've got four kids and a partner that's a stay-at-home mom, and we make things work, but we live well within our means. We're just focused on building the business. And I grew up with very little. Like I grew up with very little. Most of my life, my early years, was in a 2-bedroom apartment. My mattress was like literally on the floor. My brother shared my room. My sister slept in my mom's bed. So like, eventually we got a house built by Habitat for Humanity, which you may be familiar with. It's like a nonprofit. But for many years of my life, like the minimum floor, it was very low. So I wake up every day super blessed. I have a basketball net in my driveway. I got a fridge that dispenses water and ice. I've got a minivan that all my kids fit into. It's a Honda Odyssey. I don't need much more. I tell this to my friends all the time. Like I've pretty much made it. So now I'm just building, and I have fun building, and I don't have to stress about any of those other things. Obviously, business is a high risk place to navigate, but I like to bet on myself, and I've proven myself enough times to give myself the confidence.
I love it. That's beautiful. I do want to go back though to something you mentioned when you were talking about making that, excuse me, presenting that initial pitch to Verge Capital, and people had tears in their eyes. I mean, talk about what it means to make a good pitch, because clearly, I mean, like you said, that was the fastest they've gone to approving funding for a pitch. So what's the ingredient to a good pitch, or what are the ingredients?
Yeah, I think I break a lot of rules. So I'll tell you right now, everyone online says your pitch has to be short and 15 slides or whatever. I've done a lot of keynotes and pitches in the last couple of years. I don't think I've done a single presentation with less than 50 slides. The pitch I gave to Verge had over 70 slides.
Hmm.
So I think about it like marketing. So marketing, same with deal making, is about understanding really well who's receiving the message, their psychology, how they think, what they care about, and then working backwards from that, sort of reverse engineering your messaging to fit the mold. So when it comes to making deals, it's like, I want this to be a great deal for you so that you forget how awesome it is for me. It's not a competition. It's about just like being a great deal for everybody. And typically there's a deal that's good for me, a deal that's good for you, and a deal that's better for both of us that we didn't even think about. That's my goal, is to find the deal that we didn't even think about. So same thing with pitching. is I know that they get the same pitches from the same types of founders all the time that follow the same framework. So I wanted to just deliver a pitch that broke outside that framework. So, and I focus on storytelling. So I told my story, my mom's story. The Welcome platform, one of our core missions is to help newcomers. And my mom was relocated from Toronto to Sarnia because of domestic violence. We were living in government housing for most of my childhood. She had 3 kids under 4. She didn't speak English. We lived in poverty on welfare. And she still turned our 2-bedroom apartment into a safe haven for newcomers from the GTA experiencing the same domestic violence she did. So we had women and kids sleeping in our living room. And I saw my mom turn their lives around. And what took us a decade to do, she helped them do in a year. And it was because she knew where to go, who to talk to. She was the translator. She was the guide. And I can see that that type of person can be a huge difference maker in the lives of newcomers. And that's what we aim to do with our app. I always say my mom was like the first version of the Welcome platform, because we build technology that helps newcomers access all those programs and services and things. So, I think that story was part of what resonated with the audience. And I delivered that story while also demonstrating the low risk profile of our team in the business, the traction of the things that we were doing, the viability of the product. And I kind of just made it very compelling. And like when you watch a videos about lots of edits, lots of cuts, lots of information, but like strung together in a way that you don't feel like you're falling behind. That's what I do in my pitches too. They don't get a chance to even think. I just grab their attention and I hold it till I'm done. And I think that pitch might have been 30 minutes straight. And that's why there were 70 slides, because it was multiple slides per minute. And, when it was over, there was just like literally a couple people crying and they were all kind of blown away. And then they said, Lee, we need to deliberate. And it didn't take, I don't know what happened in that 6 minutes. I just know they had like an hour and they didn't use it. They just called me right away. So in any case, the pitch was well received. I don't know what their real feedback was, but it worked.
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously it fits perfectly into their mandate, but it's just such a great story. I can understand why people had tears in their eyes. Do you think, I mean, it sounds like you are a person with a high level of empathy, clearly. Do you think that's what stands out? Is that what makes TMRRRW Inc. unique? Is your empathetic ability to look not just at what is best for your company and for yourself, but if you're partnering up with someone, like this is where most of your deals come from, having that empathetic ability to look, okay, what do you want to get out of this relationship?
I 100%. I think it's also probably been a huge negative in some ways. I think at least the way people would perceive it. I wouldn't perceive it that way. I've always been that way since I was a little kid. My mom would always, just tell me stories about, we drive by some lady in a bus stop and she, for whatever reason, I just like start crying. Like it's like a 6-year-old in the car. And my mom would ask like, what upset you? And it was like, that lady looked like she was struggling. I
Oh,
don't know
wow.
what it was. Honestly, I was just a kid at the time. But yeah, I definitely care about others. I always find like that's what makes me happy is like putting putting service first. I spend a lot of time volunteering on a bunch of boards, all the boards that helped me growing up, the Habitat, for example, right? And I think, being exposed to such a tough childhood made me just realize how important it is for others that are in the position to care. So now that I'm in a position to care, I care. I don't think it's that complicated. I don't think it's a super virtuous trait. I think a lot of people that I know that maybe don't have that empathy simply didn't have those life experiences. So it's just harder for them to reach those conclusions. But in marketing, it's important. Like you said, in deal making, it's important. And raising money, it's important to know how people feel about you and to read them when you're talking to them, be able to empathize for their position. And I definitely think that's a huge contributor to. I've never really thought about it that way. I think you put it pretty nicely. But now that you say it, I think it has been a huge contributor to our company's success.
For sure. So generally speaking, when it comes to funding and investment, what do you think the big mistakes are that most founders make when they go looking for that first initial investment?
Well, I know for sure what the mistakes are because I think it's well reported from VCs. Um, Number one, the business isn't venture scalable. I think that's probably eliminates like 90%. So the business doesn't have an addressable market that's large enough. Um, and it isn't defensible. A number of reasons why it just wouldn't work. I think that's eliminating 90%. And then the remaining 10% that actually do have what you would call like a venture scalable business, they're maybe reaching out to the wrong people because each fund is got different priorities. They have, whether it's deep tech or biotech or software or B2B SaaS or whatever, they've got something that they're supposed to focus on. And I think a lot of founders just think it's all the same money. And again, they don't understand how the fund works. So I would say that probably like if you just had eliminated all the people that didn't have businesses that were ready for venture scale and then eliminated all the inquiries to funds that don't match your business, I honestly, it's got to be like 95% of the volume.
So we always wrap up the podcast with the same question. This is kind of a unique one, and I'm really looking forward to hearing how you answer this one. So if you could back to the future, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice that might have helped you avoid a problem or a struggle, what would you tell an earlier version of yourself?
So I'll caveat this by saying it wouldn't make a difference because I'd be too arrogant to receive the information.
Okay.
But the advice I would give is you don't know what you don't know. So I think like a really common challenge in business and in life, and especially when you're doing as many different things as I was doing, in the past 10 years, directing big creative campaigns, like video campaigns for tourism, working with politicians on, provincial leadership campaigns, doing stuff in the private sector, multiple different startups. Like, I think there's a little bit of naivety that I have about approaching new spaces where I think it's like easier than it is, but that's not necessarily the problem. That's kind of helpful. That like sort of ignorance is kind of helpful to get started. I think the problem is thinking I figured it out earlier than I do. So the amount of times that I thought I had the right answer when in fact I needed like 30-40% more time in this space, more information to realize it's a totally unintuitive thing that is actually the truth, is like scary. Like I've made this mistake countless times and haven't learned. So the advice I'd give myself is like, don't operate like you have all the information. You don't know what you don't know. And to keep seeking more context and information and truth before you make big bets that flop. But again, because I don't know what I don't know, if I gave that advice to myself, I don't know if he'd receive it.
I dismiss this in hand, but
Yeah.
thank you so much. I feel like I could talk to you for a couple of hours, and I cannot wait to see what you build next, where the Welcome platform goes, what tomorrow does in the future. Thank you so much for this. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Appreciate the time, man. Thank you for letting me share my story and giving us the time.
Idea to Investment is sponsored by TD Ferrera Wealth Advisory Group and is made possible by Tech Alliance of Southwestern Ontario. If you'd like to learn more about Tech Alliance and the resources available to entrepreneurs and startups, go to techalliance.ca. My name is Ken Eastwood. Thank you so much for joining me.